Hi, this is Crystal. Today we're going to paint a simple bookmark. This is something I like to paint whenever I'm not sure what to paint. Just a simple way to get your paint on paper. So I'm starting with a little wet on wet. So added some water first of my flower petals. I'm going to do just a half of a large flower for a focal point. And then I'm using some Daniel Smith paint, the quinacridone rose, on that wet on wet, and just kind of brushing and then adding some more darker color on the edges and some shadow areas, just to give the flower some more life. And we'll come back later after it dries and we'll add some more details to that. Also added a little bit of some less water and just pure quinacridone rose, and then also some of my Winsor Newton cadmium orange there towards the base of that, just to give it some dimension to those petals. So hopefully you will enjoy creating this little bookmark. Just getting your paintbrush on paper is one of the most important things to do as a beginner watercolorer, because that's how you're going to improve your painting, is just by doing it as often as you can fit in. For me, it's a great stress reliever. Take my mind off of what's going on in the day, and then just think about things in nature and just try to create something beautiful, or something that somebody else might love. So after we get our petals done and kind of the way that we like them, then we'll do the center, and we'll add some more smaller flowers. So here I'm using my Winsor Newton Cotman series, which is a great beginner watercolor paint. And this is the dioxazine purple. And so I'm kind of using a flatter brush. This is a Filbert number 12, I believe, on this one that I'm using. And just trying to make a different type of flower. Kind of just wiggling that brush, and then moving to another petal and just trying to wiggle that. I'm painting on a little Lazy Susan, and so you'll see I will spin my Lazy Susan around to go to the other side of the bookmark there, and do flowers on the other end as well. So I find this a great base to do my paintings on. Easy for me to move without having to move my hand in odd position, and it's a smooth, flat surface as well for these smaller paintings. So I'm finishing those little buds, and then I'm going to go in with another Winsor Newton Cotman color. This is my Prussian blue, and just adding it at the base of those little purple flowers, just to add a little more dimension, and give them, and I try to do that while it's wet as well, just so it'll kind of spread and create a more natural looking flower. And I'm doing this with a smaller brush, and I really do not use fancy brushes. This is just a round brush, I believe, from Hobby Lobby that I was doing that with. And now I'm going to make some even smaller little flowers, and I'm just using my cadmium yellow here, and making some little clusters of flowers that I'll stick on the stem when I add my greenery. And just placing these, just trying to think about, where would be a good placement. That's probably one of my biggest challenges, is trying to decide like where aesthetically it would look good, and the placement of those flowers. Trying to work with those odd numbers so they're pleasing to the eye, and then also just looking natural. So I believe this is my number 4 brush, round brush, that I'm using here to dot these in. And also while they're still wet, I'm going in with a little bit of that quinacridone rose that I mixed with my cadmium yellow, just trying to make those colors be more cohesive and work together. And that is a trick that watercolorists use, is trying, when they mix some colors, using some of those colors that are already in their palette with other colors, and it just helps those colors just pull together in your painting when you look at it overall. So I've spun my Lazy Susan around, working on those yellow flowers on the other side, and then adding in, while they're still a little bit damp, that mixture of quinacridone rose and my cadmium yellow that kind of made like an orange color for the center or of these small flowers. And so now we're going to add some greenery and just practicing these leaf strokes. I'm still learning and working on them myself, but this is also my Winsor Newton color. It might... No, this is still the Cotman watercolor series. This is the Hooker Greens Light that I was using, as well as some other greens. I believe that I had just kind of mixed and were left over on my palette. I feel like with your greens, you can always mix some of those colors that are already on your palette to get some different layers to the colors in your greenery. I did mix in some, just thinking about the color wheel, looking on the opposite of that green, and I used my rose color in my green just a little bit to darken it up, to also add some shady areas and some center stems. So that was another thing that I did as I finished the painting up, to go in and add some more detail to that greenery. So now I'm going to go up and add greenery to my purple flowers to get them to kind of look like they're flowing behind that initial rose colored flower. So just adding in some stems and then going in and adding some more leaves. So you just want to vary your leaves, making some of them long and skinny, and some of them more heart-shaped or wider at the base, and just filling in that area of white space. And then I spun my bookmark around and continuing on adding some more stems. So just taking your time and adding this in. I did add a little base to those flowers to attach them to the stem. So just kind of a little triangular shape that looked like where the flower came out of. And then created that stem. Just one of the things that I have a harder time with is moving my hand farther back on the paintbrush and being a little more loose and flowy. Something that I am trying to do, but you can see I tend to stay closer down towards the end and like more control. But I challenge you, as I challenge myself, to kind of loosen up that control of your painting, and try to, just by moving your hand farther back on that paintbrush, and just seeing how it goes for you as well. And then I wanted my yellow little tiny flowers to look like they were on like one stem in a cluster. And so then I'm going in and I tried to vary my greens and do some different shades. I think with the purple flowers I did a little darker, and then with the yellow ones a little lighter, and then just a little different shape leaf. But this is kind of a loose look, so no strict rules here. as you're going in and painting this greenery, because I didn't really have a specific flower type in mind as I was painting. I was just got something out of my head, and that's what I went with. And we're just going to go in and keep adding some little details here to the flower on the other side, and some more greenery. And you'll see some of it, I make it a little lighter so it just looks like it's in the background of those flowers, just filling in that white space to make it look more natural as well. So hopefully you will enjoy creating something today after you watch this video, or as you're watching this video. I feel like it's part of our spirit and our soul that we were made in God's image. We were made to create just as He created all things, and brings me joy and happiness to put my paintbrush on the paper and then just try to create something. And I really love creating the things that He created, and trying to recreate what they look like, the beauty of the simple things, like all the flowers that are in this world of ours that we're so blessed to be a part of and to live in. So I hope you enjoy creating something as well. So now I'm just adding some finer lines to those purple flowers now that they've dried. Just going in with a little mixture of the dioxazine purple and the Prussian blue that I mixed together, just to get another layer of color, just a little bit darker purple, and just adding some like veins to the petals of the flowers here, and just moving from flower to flower, just using how the paint dried to kind of look and see where it looks like there are petals, and then just kind of adding some lines and shading so that they look more like a flower made of layered petals. And I also will go in after I finish adding some of this darker color on these purple flowers. So as you continue, just add those small details that will make your flowers look a little more realistic. And this is the part for me that is fun, because watercolors change so much from the time you start to till even a day later as the watercolors dry. But just going in and adding those details, and just I think the hardest part is knowing when to stop painting. There's lots of times that I will stop painting and then come back the next day and add some more to it. And I think that's better than over painting it initially. So now I'm going to do the same thing and go back to my leaves here that I initially painted, and just going in. This is where I'm adding that darker green value, where I mixed in some of my Chronochrome rose with my green that I initially used, just to give it a little deeper color, and then also going into the other leaves that I created and just adding some darker spots, on one side of the stem, making it a little darker, gives it that three-dimensional look. And then just going in as well and adding some additional greenery that wasn't necessarily part of the original flowers, but just to fill in some of that white space. And so really just being really loose with my brush strokes, and just, kind of pull back and looking and seeing, okay, where's there a space that needs something, that it looks like it's missing something, or there's too much white, And then, just doing some little stick strokes, and then adding some little circular dots to look like little leaves or little buds of a flower. And so just continuing until you feel like it looks complete. So we're getting a little closer to getting done here with this bookmark. I have some of the rounded corner little die cuts, so usually when I'm done, depending on the bookmark, I will use those die cuts and trim the corners and round them off. And I have a very small hole punch that will punch a hole in there and add a little tassel to these bookmarks. And they make great gifts for your family or friends, or attached to the outside of a gift as a little additional thing. These are some great ideas for how to use these. I love to read books, so I know some people don't hold a book in their hand, but I love to have the feel of that book in my hand and still use these bookmarks. And I know a lot of people like to use bookmarks in their Bibles as well. So now I'm just going back and adding some details to that initial flower here, just some finer lines with a finer tip brush, some veins to those petals with that darker quinacridone rose, and just putting them in. And if they get too dark, you can always just smudge them out. So here's our final bookmark. Happy painting!